What's up, Met fans? In this episode of the Shameless Podcast, Vinny and I will break down the current state of the Mets, Griffin Canning's big injury, and Juan Soto's hot June. Let's talk about it. All right, Vin, it's been an up and down month of June so far for the New York Mets. As we know, the Mets took a big hit last night to the starting rotation with Griffin Canning going down with the ruptured Achilles. I see you have a pretty interesting hat on this episode, so give us a little bit of an update on Griffin Canning and what's up with the hat.
Well, the whole thing with Griffin Canning sucks, obviously, because before we came on, I actually was looking up his numbers, and last year was the most starts he made in the season with 32. His ERA this year was almost a full run and a half less than what he did last year. And we knew coming into the year if he could just hold down like the back end of the rotation. And I think for the most part, he's been even way better than we expected. So it sucks, especially for somebody like him who was having, I would say, a career year to go down with an injury like this. But I have nothing but love for Griffin Canning. I wish him a speedy recovery, and he was really solid for us. So I'd like to see him make a return with the Mets when he's healed up. As far as the hat, June's been tough if your name's not Juan Soto, right? So we went to the second Mets game of the year. Mets walked it off. And good friend of the show, good friend of ours, James Baerga, was wearing this helmet when the Mets walked it off. So desperate times are calling for desperate measures. I'm trying to break out everything. James dubbed it the rally helmet, and I know he made like the Mets Instagram with it, so I'm trying to pull it out because I can't watch this much more. They got to do something. I'm trying anything I can at this point.
Yeah, and we're gonna tap into the lineup in a couple of minutes when we talk about our trade market and heading into the trade deadline and the All-Star break. But I wanted to touch a little bit about Griffin Canning. Like you said, the transformation that Canning has made last year to this year has been tremendous. He really shown great improvement in all aspects of his game since coming to the Mets. Unfortunately, that was just a really nasty injury. We see it all over. We really don't see an Achilles injury often in baseball. It's more of a football, basketball injury, but when it does happen in baseball, like I said, the timeline sets him back, a long time. So he's going to be out for the season, but this leaves a very big hole in our rotation with a lot of question marks. So the video I posted yesterday on our Instagram, two things that we can do to patch up this starting rotation. There's two options. With the All-Star break coming and the trade deadline coming, will the Mets go ahead and attack the trade market, or will they look at our system and call up one of the young kids that we're eager to see, and Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, or Sproat? So it's going to be interesting to see the route that they take here coming up towards the end of July. I think we could both agree that some of those young kids might not be ready to get the call up yet. So we would like for them to hit the trade market pretty heavy. We have the farm system to do it. We have the trade pieces in the major leagues if anybody wants a major league at bat to do it. But Vin, with that being said, looking at the trade market and some of the trades that we would like to investigate and look at over the next couple of weeks, one of the guys that we both want on this team is Jarren Duran. And we talked a little bit about that last episode, but the post that you made on Instagram really hit home with a lot of our followers. So why don't you just discuss a little bit about your thoughts on the trade deadline, you hear me? The trade deadline and the market that's out there for starting pitching.
Well, I mean, given the Canning injury now, things changed obviously because I've been very vocal with wanting two guys in the bullpen, and I pinpointed them about a month ago. Aroldis Chapman and Jake Bird. Those are the two guys that I'm still focused on for the bullpen. Obviously, Duran, a lot of injury questions with Buxton. I put him in the post that we put up on Instagram. But, when he's healthy, it's tough to find a better bat than that right now on the market. I was starting to look a little more into it. I would love maybe like a Eugenio Suarez. I don't know how Arizona feels about where they're at right now. But now with the Canning news, I started trying to look at starting pitching, and the guy that I'm very interested in is Yusei Kikuchi from the Angels. He's another one. He got traded last year to the Astros. After the trade, made 10 starts with them. He had a 2.7 ERA. He's right back at it this year with the Angels, 17 starts. He's 3-6, but like I said, you with the Angels. He's got a 2.79 ERA. It's a lefty. He's 34. I don't know what the Angels would really want for a 34-year-old aging pitcher like that. Um, but I think you gotta do something because I think we've seen in the past that they're not bringing these kids up. For whatever reason, we see guys like Blackburn come back and he's right in the rotation. We've seen Tidwell, but as far as McLean, Sproat, and Tong, I don't know. They just won't bring them up. So I think Kikuchi is a guy that you could get that solidifies the rotation. He'll go out every 5th day. I'm also not convinced that we're gonna see Mania this year. I think that's another thing that you have to worry about. I was listening to the fan the other day, and Boomer and Gio were saying it's a 7 millimeter floating body, they called it, in his elbow. So anytime anything relates to the elbow with a starting pitcher, it's scary. And I'm just not convinced that he's gonna come back, and he's had 2 setbacks already. So I think Kikuchi is a guy that I think they should target. I'm hoping they target. I don't know if they will, but the injury to Canning changes things now.
And I don't know, you mentioned it once before, and I wonder if this is the mindset that they're taking. Once these guys get called up, and if they do struggle, once they get called up, it kind of hurts their trade value. So I wonder if this is something that Stearns and the Mets are doing in terms of holding these guys back. That they all three of them have such high trade value right now in terms of Tong, Sproat, and McLean, that if we do call them up and they do struggle once they get up here, will that hurt their trade value moving forward? And I think that's something to be said. But I do like the Kikuchi acquisition. If we go ahead and made that deal, we definitely need starting pitching. It's definitely a need now. Listen, keep those three guys in the minors if you want to. Let them continue to dominate. But at the same time, we spoke about it in one of our previous episodes. Either you call them up or you trade them. They can't be middle ground. Like, I don't want them to be in AAA for 3 years and then not do anything with them, and then we call them up, and like, why did we call them up now? Either use them to
Right.
acquire players that are going to help you win right now, or call them up and let them develop at the big league stage. I think that's a preface to what you said earlier in a previous episode, and I think that's what we're looking at right now. And I think that's the decision that Stearns has to make now. Like, are we calling them up or we're trading them? So what's going to happen here at the deadline? It's going to be a big decision for Stearns.
I mean, a prime example of that is you look at Mike Vassell, and we lost him in the Rule 5 draft to Philly. They moved him to Tampa and ended up signing with the White Sox. He's 3-3 right now on the White Sox with a 2.82 ERA. And that's somebody that we just let walk
Yeah,
out the door for nothing. I don't want that to happen with
yeah,
these other kids, with Sproat. I feel like I've been hearing about Sproat for 5 years now.
right. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what's the reason why we can't call him up. It's not like we don't have a need. I mean, the need is there, especially now with this major injury. Give him the call up. Like you said. I mean, Blackburn he's not an everyday starter. He shouldn't be in the rotation every 5 6 days. A guy like Sproke can come up, and even if he struggles a little bit, at least he's getting major league experience. If the Mets truly believe that he's going to be a part of the future, now more than ever we need him. So I think the time has come to make a move, and I think that will be something to see over the next couple of weeks. We're transitioning a little bit, Vin. I know we just spoke about the trade market. We talked about Jared Duran. We talked about Lou Bob, obviously, in our previous episode. But Buxton is an interesting player coming from Minnesota. I know he has the injury history. I know he's rarely on the field for a full 162. But what he adds and the attributes that he brings to a team, both offensively and defensively, when he is healthy, I think he could be a huge acquisition for us at the deadline. I know that's James's boy. James loves Byron Buxton. He's one of his favorite players, so I'm sure he would love to see him in a Mets uniform. I think that the need for a bat is something that we have to talk about as well. After the first four hitters, 5 through 9 has been really rough. It's been sort of a carousel there in rotating players within McNeil, Acuna, Mauricio, Alvarez, Terens. Like that 5 through 9, nobody really established themselves as somebody that's going to be there every day. Like there's a lot of moving parts there. And I think as we get closer to the end of the year, the Mets have to start solidifying who's going to be those guys after the first four. So I think that a bat is a need also at this time. So I just don't know what they're going to do here at the deadline. Are they going to go all in? Are we going to have a repeat of 2021 in terms of, falling asleep at the
Oh,
deadline?
God, I
What do you
hope
think,
not.
Vic? Do you think that they're going to make a move for a bat here at the deadline?
I think, I mean, like I said, like you just mentioned, I know Buxton's injury history, but he's a player that really intrigues me, man. Like you said, when he's on the field, the guy's electric. He's hitting 280 this year with 18 home runs in Minnesota. I mean, that place might as well be the Grand Canyon. Reese Roberts, another one that me and you get a lot of backlash about. And for somebody like him, I'm willing to look past the numbers on Luis Robert. I just think he's an elite talent when you look at his skill set. I think you put him in a motivated lineup. This kind of feels like we're beating a dead horse, but Luis Robert, Byron Buxton, when you look at guys like that, Jaron Duran, obviously, that's the if you could do that, that's the no brainer. But those guys would come here and be the best center fielders we've had since Carlos Beltran. And I think if you have a chance to make trades like that, you go do it because this is a team with high expectations. And I don't, the window could close very quickly, unfortunately. That's just the world of sports today. Next year, if we lose Pete Alonso in free agency, well, now we have a glaring hole at first base. And I think when you're in a race like this, I expect it to be us and Philly back and forth all year. I would rather, how do I put this? I would rather somebody like Lubob or Buxton or whether it's Kikuchi or guys that we spoke about. I'd rather them be on the Mets than playing against them in Philly when we're locked in a pennant race.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, and those are the things that we're gonna have to do, before the deadline. Um, it has to get done. We'll see if Stearns pulls the trigger. We'll see if Stearns is, a man of his word and making this team a competitor year in and year out. So we'll just have to wait and see. But on a positive note, and something that we love to see moving here, coming to the end of June, man, did Soto have a big time June and possibly, like you said, the best month that any Met has ever had. I mean, Juan Soto was on an absolute tear right now. Before last night's game, the numbers were Soto was batting 325 with 10 home runs, 18 RBIs, 23 walks, and his OPS is 1.238. So he's really seeing the ball well right now. We knew it was going to come. Some of us, not naming people, but worried about Soto and that he wasn't going to hit the ball, but he has completely turned it around. He is on fire right now. He now has 11 home runs in the month of June after last night's home run, even though it came in a loss, but he continues to see the ball really well. So, Vin, what has there ever been a time? I mean, I tried to think about it last night while I was watching the game. Do you remember another Met having a month like this where he's been this hot before?
No, I really don't. The only time I could think of is you go back to maybe some of the months when Pete Alonso's rookie year,
Yeah,
where,
what was
it
it,
felt like he was hitting
September?
a home run every day.
Yeah.
But, Soto's got a chance to hit his career high in home runs this year. He did it last year with the Yankees. He hit 41. He's at 20 now before the All-Star break. He's still got 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it is for the All-Star break. And like you said, I mean, we've seen Soto a lot of years in Washington. It was 5 years he was there, and then last year we saw him with the Yankees. So Soto's been front and center, especially for Mets fans, because when you're with the Yankees, it's thrown in our face. But I mean, he's been this month especially everything as advertised and more. When he gets in a zone like this, and he's got an amazing got an unbelievable capability to hit these home runs, but also draw his walks,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. He's not one of these guys that's going up there swinging for the fences and striking out on balls in the dirt or balls at his eyes. And he could lock into one pitch. And for somebody who played baseball, and I continue to play baseball now at a very low level, for somebody at that level against that level of competition to lock in the way he does and really narrow the strike zone, almost sometimes it seems like down to a pinhole. He's just an unbelievable talent when he steps in the box.
You know what's going to be crazy, Vin? I can't wait to see. And there's going to be pros and cons, and there's going to be trials and tribulations to the new challenge system with the balls and strikes. I want to see his percentage on how many pitches he gets overturned because how good his eye is. Because a lot of the time when he gets punched out, and it's rare that he does get punched out, but when on a cold strike three, not swinging, like,
Right.
when on a cold strike three, I want to see what his percentage is in having his challenges reversed from a strike to a ball because how good his eye is. Because every time they show it on the strike zone meter thing, whenever he gets called out on a strike, it's out of the zone. It's gonna be crazy to see. Like, his OPS is 1238 now. It's gonna be crazy to see what happens when he gets his way and he gets to challenge the pitches that he thinks is a ball. Because most of
Well,
the time, it is a ball.
It's funny because, even regarding the strikeouts, and I was guilty of this, so I'll be the first one to, raise my hand and take the blame for it. I felt like Soto was striking out, like, more than ever this year, but he's almost I'm not a mathematician. I'm gonna say he's right around half the at-bats he had from last year, and he's right around half the strikeouts he was at last year.
Yeah.
So, maybe just because and I know you mentioned it just now, I was guilty of it, being extremely frustrated with the way he played early on, but, yeah, I mean, he's doing everything that he's done throughout his career, and he's just been unbelievable, and as far as June, it almost feels like Major League. What was it Major League? The guy on the White Sox? Remember he wore the glasses and
Yeah, what was it? Parkman? Was it
Parkman.
Parkman?
Remember Parkman would hit like a home run every day, but
Yeah,
the team was terrible? That's what this almost feels like.
I mean,
But Lindor and Alonso and even guys like Nimmo and McNeil, as much as I would love for them not to be on the team, those 2, when they play the way we've seen them play in the past, they really do have a formidable top 5 in the lineup, where the kinda I wanna say we're kinda spoiled now as Met fans because Cohen came here and, brought up the whole East Coast Dodgers, and you look at the Dodgers and you play them, and it feels like there's an all-star at every position, which with the stupid fan voting, me and you talked about it,
well, we're gonna
you might as
transition to that
well
right
have an
after this.
all-star at every position.
Yeah,
But, you know, other teams look at us, and I'm sure they feel at certain points of the year the way we feel about other teams. When
right.
Nimmo's clicking and McNeil and Alonso and
Mhm.
there's other guys on this roster that I'm far more worried about than the
And those
Nimmo,
guys.
Lindors, and McNeils, because they'll it's baseball, it's a long season, they're gonna have their ups and downs,
Right.
but we don't have to get too much into it, but guys like Vientos and Alvarez who got sent down,
Yeah.
guys like that, Beatty, are the ones that I truly worry about because outside of Vientos and I guess, a glimpse of Alvarez, those guys haven't had, that success to fall back on in the major
And
league level.
that's what I was talking about when it comes to looking back at 2021 and learning from our mistakes. Like, yes, we all love Vientos. We love what he did last year in the playoffs. We want to see Brett Beatty succeed. But if you can go out and get a guy like Eugenio Suarez, that is a major league third baseman, power hitter that can really lengthen the lineup, you have to go do it this year. You have to go and get it.
100%.
I don't want to sit at the trade deadline and sit with these young kids that aren't producing, and then we stumble into the playoffs at the end of the year. Like, go ahead, go all in, use the pieces we have to get major league hitters, so we can make that push and end the season the way we did last year. So we're on fire going into the playoffs, not stumbling into the playoffs like we did in 2021. So, Vin,
I'm
you
all for it.
all right?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I just wanna comment on that real quick because I was
Yeah,
just looking at the standings, and I'm all for it, I agree with you 1,000%. I would rather be remember when the Astros traded for Eloy Jimenez? Unfortunately for them, it didn't work out, but I would
right.
rather take the shot with somebody like that. I've been, like, racking my brain up and down the standings in the MLB, and, even a guy like Adolis Garcia, I'd take
Yeah,
a shot on him.
yeah.
You got Eugenio Suarez. They're 10 games behind the Dodgers for the division, but I think next year's the last year of his contract. I think and I keep seeing, like, all these and I wanna throw this out there, all these, like, pipe dream kinda trades, the Paul Skeens of the world, and
We're not getting Polsky.
Brady threw out the other day, Brian Reynolds. I would love it. Don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love that. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think if you're Pittsburgh, you trade a guy like that.
No, they're
James
not.
brought it up, a guy like Kevin Gossman to fill out the rotation.
Mhm.
I think guys like that are more realistic. Do you go to Baltimore? Baltimore's 11 games under 500, and I'm trying to pinpoint the guys that you could just plug in. I would rather go for it and fail than take the safe road and fail.
100%.
So I
No,
I agree with you. I think you hit the nail on the head.
yeah, so the deadline is something to watch here coming towards, rolling into the summer. But Vin, you mentioned it a little bit before, and we're gonna transition to our next topic. We're gonna talk about the All-Star break. The Home Run Derby is coming up July 14th, and the All-Star game is July 15th. I believe it's on a Monday and Tuesday. I know they always do it during the week for some reason. But the All-Star ballots are coming to the final voting. I believe the final voting opens on June 30th, the next couple of days here. Guys, it's very important that we go out and go ahead and vote for our guys. I know right now Lindor, Pete, and Soto are all finalists in the All Star voting, and I know Mookie Betts really jumped up the. I mean, when the
Yeah.
first round finished, Lindor was like the clear favorite to win, but after the second round, Mookie Betts caught up a lot. Guys, when this voting opens on the 30th, we have to go out and vote for our guys. We want to make sure that we're well represented in Atlanta come the All Star break with Lindor, Soto, and Pete. And then who knows, maybe one of the bullpen guys gets in. I think Senga would have been an All Star if he didn't get hurt, but unfortunately he did get hurt. But we have to get our big three in. So on June 30th, when the ballots vote, I will post a link to the All Star ballot on my page. I know Vinny will do it as well on the Shameless page. Brady for Met News will post it on his page. We want to make sure that we go out and vote, guys. Make sure you vote as many times as you can to get our guys into the All Star game. Because Vin, you were looking at the standings in the All Star in the voting, the finalists. You said there's like 6 or 7 Dodgers that are like
It's
right
crazy.
there, like the top 3 in each position.
It's crazy. Will Smith has catcher locked up. I think Freddie Freeman's gonna have first base locked up. He's 1.2 million votes ahead of Pete.
Yeah,
You got Max Muncy second for third base. I don't think he'll pass Machado. Machado's at 2.5. Muncy's at 1.6. But
yeah, I
then you
think Machado got
Tommy
there.
Edman is second behind Ketel Marte for second base. Mookie Betts is only 300,000 behind Lindor now. Obviously, Otani's the DH. And then you got like Teoscar Hernandez is second for outfielders. Andy Pajes is fifth for outfielders. So it's very close to being like the
So,
Dodgers versus
so
the
what's
AL.
what's Soto for What's the Soto for the
Soto
outfielders?
is sixth. I can't see the exact numbers. Let me move the camera 1 second. So the leading vote getter for outfielders right now is PCA. He's over 3 million.
Right.
Oscar second with 2.3. Acuna's third with 1.8. Tucker 1.8. Pace basically 1.8. Soto's right around 1.5.
Yeah, that's crazy that Pajes is above Soto.
Yeah, and I don't. This is why I don't like.
Yeah,
I hate the fan voting.
yeah,
I can't like root for it as a baseball purist, and I feel like you're kind of on my side with this. I don't know. We haven't spoken about it, but look at the numbers. Give me the best players. Like, because I know I don't have the AL here, but I would assume somebody like Bobby Witt is leading shortstop.
yeah,
There's no way in the world, bro, that you can't tell me this kid Jacob Wilson doesn't deserve to be the starting all-star shortstop for the AL.
yeah. He's having a monster season.
And I like as a baseball fan, I want to see. I get Soto and Acuna. I get the draws of the names, but as a baseball fan, like I want to see the best players of that first half play.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like it makes the game that much better. This kid Jacob Wilson's hitting like 700.
Do you think this is an interesting question? Do you think that since baseball took away, so remember back in the day, if our younger listeners, back in the day, the All Star game used to dictate who gets home field advantage for the World Series. So if the AL won the All Star game, the AL will have the home field advantage for the World Series. Since taking that away, would you move the All Star game to after the season like the NFL does, or like right before the World Series like the NFL does, so we can truly get the best players in the All Star game and not just the first half performers in the All Star game?
That's an interesting point. I never
Because
thought of that.
think about like just to micromanage it a little bit and a little bit of a bias here, but Met fans always get frustrated with Lindor because he is notoriously a slow starter out of the gate. But when it comes down to the end of the year, Lindor finished second in the MVP race last year. So you're
Right.
gonna tell me that the second go getter in the MVP race wasn't an All Star? So like if you move the All Star break to the end, or even like right before the World Series, like would we be able to your point, would we be able to see the guys who truly deserve to be in the All Star game get in the All Star game? You know what I'm saying?
I think the only thing, you know what? I can't even say injury because football is a way more physical sport. And I just want to say before I go on, I stand corrected. Jacob Wilson is leading shortstops for the AL.
There we
Good
go.
for him. He's at 1.12. Bobby Witt's at approaching 900,000 votes. I
So it
hope.
looks like
Well, I'm a big fan of Jacob Wilson.
yeah, it looks
I
like
hope
he's
he
gonna
gets
get
it.
it. Yeah.
As far as that, I think that you definitely bring up something interesting. I think that's a good point because either that or I wish they would extend it a little more, the All Star break. I would like to see them do some type of skills competition. I think now at this point in time, as far as the All Star games go and all that, I think the NHL is unmatched. with the skills competition. They do the fastest skater, the fastest shot. They do the shootout challenges where the goalies could call out somebody. I think the NHL, as far as that, hits a home run. I would like to see. I know they did it back in like I think it was the '80s. They would have the outfielders try to throw to a, or the catchers try to throw to a target at second base. The outfielders throw something. I would like to see stuff like that because I think that would bring younger fans into the All-Star break, but I don't know if they'll ever do something like that again. That was part of the draw with the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
You remember when they did the skills competition?
100%.
I
Yeah.
loved it. So I wish baseball would do something like that because I know you've brought it up in the past, and it's another really good point. Baseball, for the most part, outside of Otani, they do a terrible job marketing their players. I mean, you had Mike Trout. As far as I'm concerned, and I am a Met fan saying this, Aaron Judge should be like global at this point. Like, baseball should have been treating this guy like Michael Jordan
Hmm.
because he was doing things on a baseball field that we haven't seen since
Still, not
McGuire
was
and
doing. He's
Bonds.
still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this guy should have that publicity, and he does a great job of it because I see things on Instagram and Twitter and, guys like Lindor and Judge, and we see them because 'cause we're in New York, but these guys are great with fans.
Yeah.
Get these guys out there and make the All-Star game an event.
You know what's crazy, Vin? And to switch topics a little bit, and like I said, guys, please keep an eye out. Just we're gonna transition topics here, but make sure we go out and vote on the All-Star game, guys. On June 30th, we are going to be posting the links. As soon as the voting opens, you will see the links on our page and on our friend pages. But when marketing players, and then there's different events, that we see go on. That's why, for me, events like something like Fanatics Fest that just went on here in New York City is so important, not just to the hobby that I'm in, not just into the sports card hobby, but to sports. And with Fanatics having their hand, and now mostly most of the big sports, having the connection between the fan and the player on a level where anybody can go and experience it, is very important, not just to baseball, but, the continuing of the growth of the sport. Yes, baseball has done a great job in going global and reaching different markets over the years and expanding the game. I know the NFL is trying to do that as well, but I feel like baseball has done that the most in terms of, the US sports. Basketball's number one in terms of international revenue, but events like Fanatics Fest where you can go, even if you're not into sports cards at all, you can go there, you can participate in fan activities, and then you see guys like Victor Wembanyama walking around and all these football players walking around. But Vin, there were no baseball players walking around.
Right.
Judge wasn't walking around. It was football. It was basketball. Lindor wasn't there. All of the Yankees were there, but none of them were walking around. None of them. Yes, they all had meet and greets. They all had their paid signatures and photo ops, but you didn't see them participating in the Fanatics games. And is that MLB not allowing them to do it? Is that MLB saying, restricting them to the interactions they can have? Is that something contractual that they're not allowed to participate in? But, fans were going crazy when they saw Brady, Wembanyama, even LeBron was there walking around, like major superstars walking around. There's no reason why Judge can't be there. Trout can't be there. Trout is huge in the sports card hobby, and he wasn't even there.
Well,
Granted,
I think
Granted, it's the middle of their season. It's the middle of their season, but you can't get anybody there just to walk around, like the NFL and NBA did, but to your point, they have to do a better job of marketing their players.
I think if Fanatics Fest ever was to do, I think a better way to do that, maybe rotate every year, maybe do a Fanatics Fest in June, July, and then maybe try to have one in February or March, somewhere around there. Because
Before the
like you
season
said,
starts.
last year I was walking around Fanatics Fest, and I actually have it right behind me. I paid for a few guys, you paid for a bunch of guys, but right on my badge, I got Rob Gronkowski just walking around to
Yeah, just
sign.
hanging out. Yeah,
And it's really cool for the fans and stuff like you said, the activities and stuff like that. But I think if they could figure out a way to do it maybe in even January,
yeah,
try to
like
get
right
it
after the
before spring
holidays.
training, or
Yeah,
maybe if they did something more specific to a Fanatic sports card event, like you
yeah,
said, Mike Trout, gigantic in the sports card world.
yeah.
But I just wish there was a way that they could, not that they could, because, I said it before, I feel like all the marketing is based off of Otani. And I get it. Believe me, I get it.
Right.
The guy's got the backing of 2 full full countries
Yeah.
behind him. So I
Mhm.
get that, but, in America, it should be Judge, and it always should have been Mike Trout, and when he was coming up, I know you know because we're big baseball guys, but do you remember in the baseball world, like, the absolute phenomenon when Bryce Harper was coming up in high school?
Yeah, and same thing with Strasburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If these guys could be marketed like that, if and it would never
But
happen, so I'm not comparing the 2, but if they coulda did half of what the NBA did with LeBron coming out of high school to
yeah.
Bryce Harper coming out of high school, I mean, Bryce Harper's he lived up to everything he was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
So in
Except
terms of that,
for the championship.
well, yeah, yeah, but to the point, like you said, Strasburg was another good example.
Mhm.
These kids should Caglione was another
I
one.
mean, there's situations because Skeens is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Like Skeens blew up, out of nowhere, at LSU, then going into the pros. But Vin, it's interesting because I thought going back to the '90s, what they did for Griffey, or what Griffey really did for himself in marketing, I don't know why they didn't take that and run with that. I think that if they could have seen like the hype around Griffey, and then they'd be like, all right, we have to do this for everyone. Where would baseball be now? Because Griffey was really the last person besides Otani, that was that coveted in terms of like
yeah.
iconic superstar, So
In baseball terms, I would seriously and I'll stand on this and I'll debate anybody that wants to. In baseball terms, I would compare Griffey to Jordan
oh yeah,
because
in terms
because
of like yeah,
every time Griffey drops a new pair of shoes, to this day,
yeah,
people are out buying them.
yeah.
It's not as much as Michael Jordan, and I get it, but
But in the baseball
in
world,
the baseball world,
yeah,
I still have my Griffies in my closet.
yeah.
I still wear them.
No, Griffey was iconic, and Griffey changed the game in terms of baseball marketing. With
Jeter did it too. I gotta give
Jeter
him
did it
credit.
too.
Jeter
Jeter
did
did
a
it
good
too.
Jeter released
But
sneakers.
but Jeter had the backing of Jordan. Jeter was a Jordan brand
That's
athlete.
true. You're right.
And he had the machine of the Jordan brand behind him. Really, once Nike signed Griffey, Griffey said, "I want my own logo," and that's when the Swingman came out. And what a logo! I mean, that logo is crazy. So yeah, it's interesting to see. I think they definitely need to do a better job at that. But we'll see what happens as again.
You just gave me an idea. I'm putting up a poll today.
Okay,
Which logo do people like better, the Swingman or the Jumpman?
all right, yeah, that's a good poll. So, guys, check out the Shameless Podcast. Vinny's gonna post that on the story. What logo do you like better, the Swingman logo for Ken Griffey Jr. or the GOAT MJ logo in NBA? I know Vinny's a LeBron guy, but I'm a Jordan guy. But guys, that's gonna wrap it up for episode 15. Guys, in 2 weeks from now, we have the All-Star break. In a couple of days from now, we have the All-Star voting. Don't forget to vote on the Mets for the All-Star game. Like always, guys, please give this video a big thumbs up. Like this video, share it with your friends. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are almost at 300 subscribers on the YouTube channel. We appreciate all of you. We'll see you guys next time from the Shameless Podcast.
LFGM.